Hello and welcome back to the show. Today we have a special guest, Mariyam Shamshidova from Wefranch, which is a really unique company. They have a great event coming to Denver that we'll talk more about later. But we're going to kick this off with having Miriam introduce herself and tell us a little bit about Wefranch, and we'll take it from there. So, Miriam, welcome to the show and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Guy. It's great to join and have the opportunity to share a little bit about WeFrench. So essentially, we're bringing franchising and internet together. So the interesting thing for me is that, when you go around any city, like almost any place, in the US at least, like you will definitely see franchises. So, in urban areas and rural areas, like, there has to be something like there's a 7-Eleven. So we're very used to interacting with franchise brands, kind of like mostly as consumers, as customers. And then we think of it like, oh, there's this famous brand like UPS. And then like we often are missing that there is a person in between the brand and us as local customers, and it's the franchisee. So all that to say, it's like a massive industry, right? And it's like super impactful for the American GDP and just like the world and so many entrepreneurs. But weirdly enough, it hasn't been like technologically supported as many other industries, like as real estate, as obviously finance. So this is kind of like what we're doing. We're bringing a lot of basic internet tools for searching, for making decisions, for connecting with brands, with fellow co-founders to launch franchise brands because we really believe in the model. So yeah, our goal is to empower both the prospective franchisee and the franchisor to find the right match. Because, like very similar to, let's say, dating platforms or even like LinkedIn, right? The purpose is for the right person, employee, find the right brand, right? And get hired. And it's super impactful for both sides. So similarly, like for a great franchise brand, they're very selective, and they're trying to recruit right the best people out there, and the person is trying to find like the best brand for themselves. So when they meet, it's like kind of like a marriage for the next 10 years. That's going to be very impactful for both sides. So it's very important that these two sides can meet each other where they need to, and we're doing that with the help of internet.
Right. And the approach that you and the team and Greg Ugui, who's the founder, did I pronounce his name right? Ugui?
Yes, you got it.
Okay. All right. With his background in finance from Goldman Sachs and other places, it's very data driven, which kind of takes some of the emotion out, which is probably a good thing. And you're exactly right. As someone that's been in franchising, I've been married to the Anytime Fitness brand for 18 years now. So, and plan to be for even further. It was just a good fit. For some people, maybe Anytime Fitness wasn't a good fit, or from their operational expertise or whatever, or it wasn't the right industry for them or something like that. But for my wife and I, and Anytime Fitness, and for a lot of the people that are in other brands that we've been involved in, it's the perfect fit. So I'm glad that you guys are looking at it from both sides and using the data to kind of take some of the emotion out because people get excited and maybe it's not always the best brand for them to go down or go down that path with. And you're right, it's a really long relationship. So that's pretty cool. And one of the things that WeFranch does that, besides the data driven approach, is this ten event tour that you guys, the franchising tour, which I have never seen one before. And we're excited to have you come here on August 5th. And we'll tell more about that event here soon. But they're bringing it here. So there's going to be some emerging brands making pitches. There's going to be some established brands. And it's an opportunity for people to see what's coming down the road in franchising with maybe some of these emerging brands. And then WeFranch also offers some kind of creative finance ways for people to invest in either franchise owners or their multi-unit ownership or the franchise brand itself too, right?
Exactly. Yeah, thank you for setting the stage. So, I think of it as two sides of the spectrum. So on one side, we have, online data that's free for all prospective franchisees. So we parse FDDs, right? And we try to kind of like not cherry pick, but like take information, make it searchable for people who are searching, right? Like for specific things. So that's kind of like wherever you are, you can be at your computer just making like heavy research on franchise brands, territories, talking to franchisees, right? And then on the other side, there is like this in-person aspect of meeting with people who are also in the space. So again, since it's such a long, like it's not just like even buying stocks, right? Like, yeah, maybe you can have exposure to this company and you know of them, but ultimately, like you can just like continue sitting in your room and nothing is going to change. With franchising, it's still like heavily involved in the real world. Most likely, right, you'll be like getting out there. So I think it's important for people to meet each other, meet like other people like, yourself who is a has been a franchisee for a long time, kind of like share your experience and also like speak with franchisors face to face, right? Not just like on another Zoom. So yeah, so we're like, we're work with a lot of great kind of like world-class best in their category kind of brands. And it's a 10-stop tour throughout 2025. So we've done 6 of these events already. So we went to New York, Chicago, Seattle, LA, Miami, and then we did like a repeating one in New York. And our next stop is in Denver. So we're very excited. And after that, we're going to Portland, Seattle, and LA again. That's the final stop. And we're taking a very like unconventional approach to these like in-person events. So since we come from, the tech startup world, so there are, these things called pitch nights. So like startups just pitch for a few minutes. They have to keep it super concise and the pitch to investors. But we think in franchising, the kind of like investor and the person to be pitched is the prospective franchisee. So, prospective franchisees have thousands of brands to choose from. So they need to be pitched on, why this brand, whether it's, something legendary or it's an emerging brand that's going to be just a little bit more flexible, but they have a lot of potential. So yeah, so we limit our attendees to like 100 people. So people have to register and kind of like, be there with intent. We choose only 5 brands so that people don't get overwhelmed and they really have a chance to consider, think, understand each of the 5 brands. And we keep them very different. So they're going to come from, let's say, pet care, like chicken, like other types of like full scale restaurants, child care, like senior care, home services. So, people often think from outside of the franchise space that it's mostly restaurants. Like maybe they know
Yeah.
few other brands, but it really like runs, the gamut. Like as you know, like there's beauty and fitness and basically like any service that you can think of, there's most likely a franchise, that is being built or should be built.
Right.
So yeah. And then we
Yeah.
also have kind of like special guests. We call them judges sometimes. So they're just experienced business leaders, sometimes from franchise space. So Guy is joining us as one of them. And we'll have, Spencer Jones from the Denver Nuggets. So he's a current player. So just bringing that like, younger person, athlete, investor kind of mindset. And we actually like when people are unfamiliar with franchising because it allows them to ask questions that, the audience wonders about most often.
Right.
Afro Bobby, so he's John Elway's chief investment officer, kind of like managing his family office. So he obviously sees, like dozens of deals every day. He's super business savvy. Then we'll have Sue Peterson. So she's on the Women in Restaurant Leadership board. So just like a super experienced QSR, leader. So yeah, we're super excited
Yeah.
and would love to have anyone kind of like apply and join us on August 5th.
Right. And we'll put the links in for people to register and we'll be getting the word out because it is a really cool event. There's so many times where people ask me about franchising and they think it's McDonald's and that's about it. And some other, maybe they know about Chick-fil-A or something like that. But there's 4,000 brands in the US and it runs the gamut. And I've talked to so many people that are in corporate or just in positions where they kind of it's comfortable, but it's not exciting or, like life changing. And this would be a great opportunity for someone to come out, see a variety of brands, talk to people in a no pressure environment. It's down at the Venture X building at 1800 Wazee Street, so it's pretty easy to get to. It's a nice facility. Starts at 6, and on the tour, I've noticed that you guys also, when you talk about emerging brands, you're thinking like less than 10 and these small companies, which are great. And we want to support them and grow them because there's great opportunities there for franchise buyers as well. I often talk about that there's probably maybe better terms and pricing to be had, and more flexibility in the emerging brands. But you guys have had some big hitters on this tour as well. I mean, you had Neighborly, which is the largest home service brand platform in the country. You've had Chick-fil-A that everybody knows. So it's not like you're just finding small brands to, come out there that are desperately trying to get in front of people. You've had some really high end, really well known, well established, very very successful brands. Also talking about the franchise space in general, and hopefully educating people on, hey, this is, the old saying in franchising is you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And we found that to be true. And I think just getting more people exposed to it and having real conversations. And as you mentioned, with real people, not something on a Zoom. I mean, you guys do a great job with your webinars too, I have to say. So if somebody's looking for just general information and getting acclimated, nothing beats in person. So come down to the event on August 5th if you're in Denver or anywhere around Denver. But you guys also have really, really good webinars. I've really enjoyed watching some of them. The one with Paul Tran from Pepper Lunch was super, super interesting to me for a number of reasons. Um, and but it's going to be a great opportunity for people to just get a general feel for franchising, hear about some cool upcoming brands that maybe they're small now, but later on you'll be like, oh, I remember seeing them before they were nationwide. And because it happens, it happens pretty quickly. Um, Anything else? How have the events gone so far? I mean, you've done them all over the place. Two in New York already, Miami, LA once, I think, Chicago, right?
Yes, Chicago
Yeah.
and Seattle. So it's been great. I mean, sometimes like when we tell people, they call it the road show, which makes it feel amazing. But we've met like literally hundreds of people in each of the cities, and the idea of kind of like flipping the script. So in franchising, often there are these big conventions hosted in big cities, right? And yes, we did have two events in New York, but the idea of like going local, so all about and coming to the people where they want to launch their businesses. So this is like a big idea behind the way we host events. So like they're free, we serve like food, drinks, and then we come to you where you are, right? So the brands that are presenting are specifically like wanting to grow in Denver or like in LA, right? So there is like that alignment, and yeah, just connecting with people locally, looking for like local leaders, people who are, passionate about a certain community, like staying in that place and finding a way to like build a business that is aligned with, a certain community and kind of like services that the economy at large is a big point. But yeah, it's been amazing to kind of like see the differences between different places, but ultimately just helping people like learn about these brands. And finally, like most people at our events are kind of like completely new to franchising, and I think that's the big draw for kind of like both sides, both our attendees and the brands presenting, right? Is that people who are like well educated about the franchise space, like have already kind of like found their opportunities, but there's so many people who either don't know, yes, like you mentioned, they're stuck or maybe like thinking about what's next in their corporate career or just any other job they have. So they're kind of like at crossroads. So we want people to have this, pathway of, like a lot of athletes when they retire, they're like, what do I do? Either build a startup or like, go into real estate. So kind of like these two pathways that people think of. So we do think that like franchise ownership should be like an established pathway for people graduating MBA programs or even college. People
Yeah.
can be looking towards what's next in their career, or they're just like took a break and now they're ready for what's next.
Yeah, yeah, I like how you, described it somewhere, Wefranch did. It's, stealthy wealthy, and I've had the opportunity, to be amongst a lot of people that are very, very wealthy through franchising, and you would, you know, they're not in any headlines. They're at not maybe they're in the Franchise Times or something like that, right? But they've got 150 restaurants, and they're just like the guy over there in the corner at the networking event. Just it is truly a path. So that whole multi-unit um, operation is attracting more and more people, which is really interesting. And also, there's also those people multi-unit owners that are looking for the next big thing. They want to get in early, so there's also that as well. And the cool thing about franchising is you could be going against Steve, who has 150 Jack in the Boxes in California, and you could be Lisa, who's coming to this event, and you're also interested in this new emerging brand, and you're basically both going to be offered if you went down that path, you're getting the same deal. Like it has to be in franchising. It has to be pretty much the same deal for everybody in the beginning. So now it's different if he bought a whole state and there's a different kind of class for that. But generally, the same deal that's on offer for one unit owner is the same as the one that's going to, maybe build 20 of them, something like that, which is cool. I think it's like a little bit of a democratizing of opportunity for everybody, which is what the nation needs right now. We need more opportunities for people to become business owners and really, really succeed, not just from a more money standpoint, but more time freedom, more flexibility, more ownership, and more engagement in the community, which is what drives my mission is to get people into entrepreneurship because it does drive all those things, cooperation and engagement and community level cooperation, which I think makes a real big difference in our individual lives. So I love what you guys are doing bringing it on the road, making it super exciting. That's, not some,
You mentioned the stealthy wealthy, so it's a really like cool term. We actually didn't come up with it, but we keep referencing it. So I think like to your point, so it's based on the research by a Princeton professor, and he worked in the Treasury. He studied the tax returns of the highest earners in the U.S., and he found out that they're not investment banking like partners or tech founders, but they're small business owners. So and kind of like you said, there's also another book called Millionaire Next Door. So it's all about how, you know, like this guy that, can own hundreds of locations of like a super famous franchise brand is not going to be like different from, just visually you can tell that like you can tell that this is an athlete or this is a celebrity or this is like, a tech founder. They have a certain like things about them. So they're often like stealthy, even though they can be like super wealthy. So yeah, there's like more and more kind of like research and data coming out on this, which is very exciting. And small business ownership is also like the most accessible compared to like other career paths for kind of like an average person. Plus, there are like SBA loans that we often talk about. So there's that support from the government to leap into, yeah, this type of business ownership. So there are kind of like
yeah,
other layers of almost like protection and de-risking. So the
yeah,
first one you also mentioned in that you have your territory. So yeah, like a multi-unit franchisee with like 100 locations is going to have like individual, pieces of territory, and you will have your own territory that is protected, and no other franchisee is going to be in that zone. So you kind of like, that helps you cooperate with other franchisees, not compete. You do compete with like other businesses in your area, but that's just the nature of business. And then, yeah, like if you pick the brand well, which is a huge part of what we help people do. So, instead of kind of like rush sales or just trusting what the franchisor says, um, triangulating information and data from like several sources. So we collect reviews from franchisees, right? Like what does the franchisees, like what do 10 of them or 20 of them think about what it's like to be a franchisee of this brand? Like really taking time to study the FDD, so to make the right choice. So yeah, when you do, like, hopefully that brand name and support protects your business and kind of like sets it up for success.
Yeah. 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 You're not in business by yourself for sure, and the bigger the brand gets, the better it is, more and more. And there are so many financing options here in the US. I was just on a panel talking about the difference between US financing and financing for franchising in like the UK, India, Middle East, and Australia. And we have a lot more vehicles and a lot more accessible vehicles than most other countries. So it'd be a shame for people not to make the most of them. And there's specialized franchise lenders out there too. And if I would say if anybody's listening and it's not in franchising and has an interest, like going to an event like this, you're going to have like a wealth of knowledge when you're walking out of it, just from the conversations that you have. And you'll find that in franchising, people are really sharing, like shockingly so. That's been my experience and a lot of other people's experiences. So I really thank WeFranch for doing this because I think the expos are really great. You can see a lot of brands in one gigantic convention hall, things like that. But it's a lot of drive-by. It's quick conversations. There's someone behind you. There's some, like all this kind of stuff. You grab your promotional pen and you move on to the next stall, basically. Like this is an event that even if you've never been in franchising, you can go there, be totally welcomed. We're going to talk to you at your level, like meet you wherever you are. And we're not trying to recruit or anything like that, just showing you opportunity. Our we franchise, and now I'm saying we like the collective we. So sorry. I am on the like the judge, so that's good, which I'm really honored for that opportunity. So thank you. The other people on that panel are truly impressive. So I think it'd be a great evening for people. You're gonna have food, drinks, learn some stuff, and find out like, yeah, I'm super interested in this, or like, oh, maybe it's not your cup of tea, or maybe it's not now, whatever. But wanted to thank you and Greg and the whole WeFranch team for putting this event on and making it accessible to people and taking all the time, and money, and effort to put the roadshow on and promote it. And obviously, you guys do a fantastic job. Nothing about this is um, class B stuff, like from the cities that you've chosen. Of course, Denver being the best one. I might be a little biased um, to the venues that you put them on and the people that you have attending. So thank you very much for your service. I'm big on entrepreneurship and franchising, and I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. And if anybody's interested, you can reach out to Mariyam or the registration via the registration link, or please feel free to reach out to me directly. Happy to answer any questions, and would love to see everybody August 5th, 6 p.m., Venture X building, but register first so that we have an idea of how many people are showing up, right?
Exactly. Thank you so much, Guy. Yes, and it's precious to like have you join us, and just like you mentioned with webinars, ultimately like people want to learn from real franchisees. So on one of our webinars, actually, like this person said that the relationship with the franchisor is always kind of like they're your frenemy. So yes, they're your friend and they're your partner, and you're in it for the long term, and it's like a win-win relationship. But, they're also like have their own interest, and they have their own agenda and you have your own agenda. So it's like, yes, you're under their umbrella, but you have your own kind of like house. But like with franchisees, like really because it's not competitive, like, you have your own territory, and the more the brand grows, the more famous it is, the more it benefits everyone. So franchisees, like you also said, are like very generous with, what they share, like discussing things that maybe the franchisor would not kind of like touch upon or go into as much detail. So ultimately, yeah, having people like you in the room, having people like you share like details and kind of like strategic advice on webinars is just precious. So yeah, at the very least, people should come and like hang out with you and learn about how you built everything that you built.
Thanks. Well, I'm happy to share, the wins and the challenges because it's all part of everybody's journey. So, Maryam, thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to get this out, and looking forward to seeing you on August 5th for that great evening. And will Greg be there as well?
Of course, yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Looking forward to meeting him and the other panelists and everybody that shows up. So, thanks again, and hope to have you back on the show sometime soon.
Definitely. Thank you, Guy.
All right. Take care. See you.
Bye.